Hello my loves and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I'm Leeor Alexandra. This is the B community. On this channel we talk about the law of attraction, spirituality, self-development, and so much more. And today's video is a segment from my podcast, Inner Worlds with Leeor Alexandra. In this episode, I got to talk to my friend Ryan Cropper. This was one of the best episodes I've ever gotten the pleasure of recording, and I wanted to share some of that with you guys. Now in this segment we talk about, can anybody astral project, and Ryan shared some of his favorite techniques for astral projection, especially for beginners. It was such a good episode. If you want to hear the whole thing, the link is in the description below. It's about an hour or so long. Enjoy the following segment of it. Please give it a thumbs up if you like these segments, if you'd like me to share them, and if you want more of Ryan, because I'd love to have him on the channel again. So without any further ado, here's the segment. I have these experiences that are not physical, right? They are in other dimensions, in other realms, and other states of consciousness. And I mean, it's so cool to have them, but why do we have them? We have them, I think, because we're meant to bring back these messages, these awarenesses, and these understandings so that other people can see that we don't have to live only through the five senses, through the five sensory experience. We have all these other senses and all these other aspects of ourselves, and life could be so much more than just the physical, right?
Right.
Because it's cool to do it, but why are we doing it? And I mean, we're meaning assigning creatures, and I think that giving it that meaning makes it just so much more powerful. And I know that there's a lot of people that want to try it, and I actually went on Instagram and I asked people what kind of questions they have for you, and everyone unanimously wants to know, well, there's a few things, people want to know how to manifest a specific person. I was like, okay, I'll ask him, sure. But like, I want to talk about aliens and astral travel. So unanimously people are asking how to do it. So it's basically, let's break it down to three questions, right? Do you think that everybody can astral travel?
I was thinking about this exact question yesterday because I've always been under the assumption that everyone can. I still believe that everyone can to an extent, but I've started to wonder and question, because everyone has the hardware and even the software. Everyone has the energy to astral project. Everyone has a body. Everyone can do it. But there is something in the minds of people that I'll address which is getting in the way. And it's starting to make me wonder, if the majority of people are like this, then can everyone astral project? It's doubt and impatience. And it comes with a specific level of, and I don't mean to sound, what's the word? Degrading or anything, but immaturity. If you have someone who gets frustrated very easily with circumstances, when things don't go their way, or when they don't see results, the odds of them astral projecting are quite slim. Not because they physically can't do it. It's not like there's nothing missing. But it's because they're blocking themselves from doing it through frustration and through belief. When they say, oh, it's not working, they get angry and frustrated, and that actually blocks neuroreceptors in the brain. It prevents you from doing it. It also takes you energetically into a specific direction, which is not the state of being that you need to be in to astral project. Mm-hmm. And so everyone can do it. If you take that same person, calm them down, it's good.
I feel like you need a certain level of detachment towards it too. Kind of a little bit of being nonchalant about it, not placing it on a pedestal so much, right? Like it's this big, incredible thing that you have to do or else your life is meaningless. It's just kind of like, this would be cool to do, and then practice it, right?
Right. That's a very good way to prevent yourself from shifting into the wrong state of being, because when you take it too seriously, you sweat, you get anxious, you go into a fight mode. You can't do this in fight or flight. It's just your body's obsessing about controlling too much at that point because you're in fight mode, and so it's not going to happen.
That's exactly it. And that's kind of why I feel like it does go hand in hand with that theta brainwave state, because you do have to be a certain level of calm in order to make it happen from my experience. And when I get too excited, I tend to slip out of it.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes
Right.
when you get excited, it can be misunderstood. Because sometimes when you build astral energy, let's say you're staying very, very still, which is when often this happens. You're staying very, very still. Astral energy will build in your, they call it dantian, or your navel. It will come up to your diaphragm. That will then open your heart, not in a loving way. The heart has different tempos, different frequencies. But when that cracks open, you'll feel excited as well, because you can't quite tell the difference, especially if you're new. But it's going nuts. But if you stay very still, if you ask yourself the question, am I excited, really? Like logically, am I thinking thoughts that make me excited? If it's a no, you're probably opening that energy center. It just feels like excitement. Stay very still for about 6 minutes. Oh, that's too long. 6 seconds. And see what happens. Usually it comes up and kind of over your heart, in a sense, or over your rib cage and through your head, and then you astral project.
So on that note, could you possibly share your favorite beginner's technique into astral projecting?
Yeah, my favorite one, mainly because it's fun and easy and simple to do, are the methods centered around recreating some form of sensory sensation. For example, like Robert Monroe's technique with the rope technique, I've often said to people to change it. To change it in a way that actually, what's the word? Communicates to your subconscious mind effectively as to what it is that you're trying to do. So don't imagine a rope. Buy a rope, staple it to your ceiling, or tape it to your ceiling. You know, get up, grab the rope physically over and over again, make it repetitive so you can ingrain that motion into that moment. What's going to happen is when you lay down, you're going to end up phantomly projecting out of your body to grab that rope at some point, especially if you set the intention to do it. I came at that approach in that way because of the other ones that I have on my channel that I used to practice, which were, you know, those phones in the 90s with the buttons?
Yes.
Yeah, so you'll take a phone and you put it underneath your pillow, you'd feel the buttons, and you just let yourself go into theta. You then remove the phone and you pretend as if that phone is still there physically, you know, and what will happen is eventually you'll feel those buttons. You know that the phone isn't there anymore. You removed it like 10 minutes ago, but it feels like it is there. You open your eyes, you'll find yourself in the etheric plane because you're having to create a thought form, which you can only do in the ethers, which takes your consciousness and your astral body there. The same thing can be done with a ball. You take a tennis ball, put it in your hand, have your hand off the side of the bed, off the edge of the bed, there we go, and then you drop the ball. You'll hear it hitting the floor, right? And you should also be able to remember what it feels like to have that ball in your hand. Then what you do is you just don't pick up the ball. Your hand is still off of the side of the bed. You just act as if you can still feel the ball, right? That furry texture of the tennis ball. What will happen is eventually as you go into theta, the ball will become real. And that ball can only become real in the etheric plane. And so you'll find yourself in the ethers. Another one to do is chewing gum. And I've tried all of these out, had a lot of fun doing them, and it's really cool. Get yourself some chewing gum and chew them in bed. I know people say don't chew chewing gum in your sleep. Well, try it anyway. The worst that can happen is it'll just fall into the back of your throat, you'll wake up. So chew chewing gum in your bed until you get into theta, so you feel very drowsy, right? Remember what that feels like to chew that chewing gum. Then spit it out or put it on your dresser. Try to act as if that chewing gum is still in your mouth. You know, work around your mouth a phantom ball of chewing gum. Eventually it'll become real and you'll find yourself in the astral plane. There seems to be a very clear and distinct pattern when it comes to methods, the ones that work the most, and that is they have you externally perceptive, or in other words, being very aware of your external environment, not your internal environment. If you're imagining things, you find yourself falling asleep or daydreaming or mind wandering. And so if you take this concept to other methods out there, those other methods start working all of a sudden. You know? And so there's something within our biology, our body, that under the right circumstances has you astral project. You just got to recreate those circumstances. You can come up with a new technique.
Fascinating.
Just like that, if you know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's innate in us. It's just something that wow, that's so interesting. I have a lot of questions about that. So anybody that's listening, should they keep trying one method night after night or time after time, or should they experiment with different ones until something clicks?
Probably try one method per month, or two. Definitely not 5 or 6 every week. That's too much.
Yeah.
And you've got to make sure that you're doing it right. And on top of that, you have to make sure that your body knows what you're doing, because it's a partnership, really. You don't want to trick your body into falling asleep. And
how is that?
Well, your subconscious mind has a lot of control over whether or not you astral project. And it's aware of everything that you're doing, everything you're saying, and everything you're listening to. And so, if you start off under the assumption that you're going to be working with your subconscious mind to astral project, knowing that it's going to hear and it's aware of everything that you're doing, the clearer you are on what it is that you're supposed to be doing, step by step, the easier it'll be for your subconscious mind to put everything into action, have you separate. And so, yeah.
Would you say that maybe narrating the experience, like, and now I'm going to astral project kind of thing?
Right.
Setting that intention, is that working with the body and with the mind?
That's working more with your, I call it ordinary awareness. That's kind of like you're speaking to yourself. Unless you shift your attention to something else that you can't quite see, feel, or touch yet. It's kind of like speaking in a room, or speaking in the dark. Someone's in the dark, but you can't see them. When you're speaking to yourself, you're going to be able to speak to yourself. You're with yourself all the time. But if you were to speak to your body, you're not quite sure as to where it's going. That's really good. That means it's going to your psyche. If you say those same words to something like to your body instead of yourself, you get a much greater reaction. And it's the same thing with manifestation as well.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the body is the subconscious mind. So that link definitely checks out. Ryan, that my astral experiences, everything that I've done has, other than probably one time, has never been intentional. I kind of slip out of my body a lot, or my consciousness just does that. What do you think about that? People who kind of just do it without really intending to.
I always say you're doing something that's making you slide out of body, whether it be some type of yoga or some type of other meditation, or maybe just how you're thinking. Sometimes if you're used to daydreaming or not quite being here or not quite feeling into the body, you're doing something subtly to make you detach.
Very interesting.
Or even how you go to sleep. Yeah, that can change everything, like your routine.
That's really interesting, because I've always been this I have been doing this unintentionally probably for 7 years now. And there was a time where I couldn't control it. So I learned to just sleep on my sides, because when I sleep on my side, it seems that I don't slip out of my body. Interestingly enough, I don't know. I know that a lot of people do recommend sleeping on your back in order to astral or to do this on your back, right? To be laying down. So that kind of, I've read that. That's what I've read. I don't know if you believe in that also, but for many years I had to sleep on my side so that I don't slip out. I also enter trance really easily. I'm very tranceable. So I don't know if that's connected a little bit, but I've had a couple intentional experiences that I kind of want to tell you about, if you'd like to hear them.
Sure.
So, in 2019, Aaron Dowdy and I were in Costa Rica after our last retreat over there, and I pulled my back really badly, and I was sleeping on the floor of our Airbnb at the time, and I was in so much pain. I could barely move. I was sleeping on the floor, I couldn't move, and I somehow slipped into this astral state. And I'm sorry if I'm not using the right words for this. This is all pretty intuitive for me. I don't really know too much. I do my best to research, but I'm not as inside of this as you are. So please correct me wherever you can. So I slipped out of this state and I stopped feeling the pain of my physical body. And there was this entity, this being wearing a trench coat. And I remember hearing that if you pull on something like a rope, you can actually get out of your body. And I was like, I'm going to pull on this guy's trench coat. I pulled on the guy's trench coat and actually got out of my body. And the place that I was in was just like the Airbnb, but the sky was like this gorgeous sunset, this beautiful cosmic sunset. And you could see like Saturn and it was just stunning. And this guy, I don't remember, it's been so long now, but I think he gave me a piece of paper with some sort of code on it. And the reason why I'm sharing that with you is because I'm curious if you've had experiences where you've brought back any sort of information or anything that was really relevant and that changed something in your physical life. I didn't remember anything on the piece of paper, so it didn't change anything for me, but it was a cool experience.
Well, first, the reason as to why you can only astral project on a specific side of your body is because physically you're conditioned to fall asleep on a specific side. And so every time you go to sleep on one certain side. Your body gets used to that. And it's also the reason as to why it's difficult for some people to astral project on a side that's probably widely recommended. Like your back, some people sleep on their back. They're not going to be able to astral project on their back. So for them, they need to sleep, or astral project rather, on a different side of their body. Usually the side that they just don't usually lay on at all. It could be their left. Maybe you sleep on your back and you go on your phone on your right, but you never go on your left. Well, then do everything on your left for astral projection. You will recondition your body to only astral project on your left side. And you can, if you really want to go hard with everything and always astral project, you can recondition every side of your body so that you can only astral project. But the problem is then you can't go to sleep. It takes a lot of repetitive behavior, yeah. But,
yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. And can you think of any time? I'm just curious if you've ever received anything from these experiences that you've brought back.
Physically, I've tried so many times. I always get close, but this realm is so difficult. I think I need more energy because I can go really, really far out. And I've tried taking things like pieces of clothing. I've tried taking notes as well. I've tried taking ink on my hand. Like someone's told me the year. Like, what is 2024? October? And I write it out on my hand because I want to remember the date or a phone number or an address or a name to research on Facebook. And I can bring it back through a few dimensions, but then whenever I get back here, I'm looking at my hand. It's somewhat there because I'm looking at my astral hand, but then my astral hand disappears and there's nothing on my actual physical hand, and it's just a bummer.
I think it's such a bummer because I think that what happens is we're trying to hold on to it and we're moving out of that divergent thinking phase. We're really in divergent thinking when we're doing these, when we're exploring these worlds, and then we're coming back into convergent thinking and we're trying to remember. So we're trying to consciously make this rational. Like, what is this? What does this, how does this translate into the physical world? And then it just disappears, goes away, right?